Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Jimmy Dore Show. Representative Richard Martin had to take off. I'm joined by Johnny Bongiorno. Hi, John. Nice to have you. Thanks for being here. Right now, we're talking about voter suppression. We're talking about voter suppression on The View. And here is Elizabeth Hasselbeck to explain to us exactly what's happening. Voter suppression.
I think
some states they want to demand photo ID for voting, right? And some people, including President Clinton, think that it's now becoming a race issue where it's discriminating against those who may not have photo ID, but who may want to vote. This is a tricky situation. You said.
Yeah. So when she says it's a tricky situation, she means Republicans are trying to trick people into thinking they're trying to protect the vote when they're actually trying to suppress the vote of minorities and the elderly, right? So when she says it's tricky, this voter suppression thing is tricky, she means that her Republican friends are magicians at suppressing the vote. Right, John?
Yeah, I guess I haven't watched The View recently. She's looking more and more like Kaylee Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory, like every day, which I think is kind of interesting because she's also out of her league in the same way that that character is. Like, she seems to think that in any political issue, and I feel bad if I'm like being misogynistic, that like pure energy and outrage can stand in for information. Like, she talks really fast, and like I almost sometimes follow her because of that, but it's never quite enough.
Yes, no, that was, I like the way you put that. Her energy and...
pure outrage?
Pure outrage can substitute for facts and information.
Bill O'Reilly has that same formula going on his show, actually.
There's like a whole echo chamber of that kind of energy happening, right? Okay, so now Whoopi Goldberg tries to explain to Elizabeth Hasselbeck what's so tricky. And she talks about her mother having a hard time voting because she's never had an ID. Here we go.
Never had an ID, never drove.
Well, she didn't drive. You know, she registered. When she registered, she had her Social Security number. She had a bill for where she was living so they could prove where she lived. And they gave you a voter registration card. And that is what she voted with
here's the problem.
for many, many years. And I just want to say, so a lot of the older voters who have been voting for years and years, and some of them are not drivers, some of them don't have the means to do stuff. Yes, Barbara, yes.
I'm one of them.
I know.
But here's the problem. We have the privilege. Yes.
Sorry. I am one of them because I...
So there's Whoopi Goldberg saying that she's one of them, right? Her mother's one of them. She's never she's never driven a car. She's never had a driver's license. So it's a big pain in the ass for Barbara Walters. Also, turns out she's never had a driver's license. She lives in Manhattan, right? Even when she was sleeping with that married senator, she took a cab.
That's a bit over my head. I don't know that one.
But
But
that
anyway,
happened. So now Barbara Walters tells her story.
And I had to then go and which was okay. You go down and you stand in line and it takes forever. And now I have my picture on it. So I really understand what it is. It's a great effort to have to get that photo.
I do think.
So there's Whoopi Goldberg's mother. There's Barbara Walters, a woman of extreme means, says it's a big pain in her ass to get a driver's license and a picture ID from the state, right? Now, so there's two hardcore examples of someone poor, someone rich, both having a hard time with it. Two different parts of the country. And now the only person who could disagree or still defend these voter ID laws would be the most extreme partisan hack or an imbecile. Luckily, we get both of those things in Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Here she is.
And I know we're short on time, but I do want to say this.
I know we're short on time, so I'm going to have to hurry if I'm going to have to get in my misinformation, right? And by the way, I'm just going to ignore the relevant stuff that Whoopi just said and Barbara just said. I'm going to completely ignore it and hurry up and get in some misinformation. Here it comes, John.
Though, and I know we're short on time, but I do want to say this. It is a great privilege in this country that we get to vote.
Okay, you had to be wrong. Not a privilege, Elizabeth. It's a right that we get to vote. It's a right. And it's kind of ironic because you would think that the first person who would know the difference between a right and a privilege would be someone of privilege on the right. Thank you. I was very proud of myself when I came up with that.
Nice construction there.
Should we just move on, or can you follow that?
I don't think I can follow that, actually.
Okay, so here she just keeps, somebody else corrects her. No, I just corrected her. Somebody there corrected her in real time. It's like water off a duck's ass to Elizabeth. She just keeps going. Ready? Watch.
It's that right to vote.
It's a right.
That right to vote, which is also a privilege.
Just keep saying it.
Yeah, I don't think she took introductory level political science, the difference between the two. In her defense, like we point out that she keeps ignoring the arguments that are being made by Whoopi and Barbara.
Yes.
But like you got to imagine that in a studio like that, there's all sorts of shiny things in the audience in the studio that she's distracted by. And she can't pay attention to the points that they're making, regardless of the intellectual merit. I feel bad for her. She seems like a nice woman.
She seems very nice.
Yeah.
She seems like a nice person in her private life. I bet she would help a cat if it was hurt, or a dog.
I'd
or
prefer
a baby.
if more of it was private, and she kept just to that area.
Just stay in your private life. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I get
a little bit.
Well, she has more to say. So there she goes. So she keeps saying it's a privilege, even though she's been corrected. And here she goes. Let's ramp it back up.
Vote.
It's a right.
That right
That's
to vote,
privilege.
which is also a privilege, as I see it as a blessing, should be protected with airtight security.
Yes, the kind of airtight security that makes it hard for the poor and elderly to participate in democracy. That kind of airtight security that suffocates any chance of voter fraud and any chance of a Democrat winning office. That kind of airtight security, right?
Yeah.
Is that what she's talking about, John?
They definitely care about security. Like that's, for instance, why they want to set up those Diebold electronic voting machines. They're easy to hack through Wi-Fi. You don't even need to stand next to the machine to rig an election anymore.
That's right. It's all about.
It's very secure and very convenient, actually, for them.
She goes on, John. She has even more to say. Here we go.
Now, I do think the problem is that not everyone does have photo ID. However, I don't think to solve the problem it means allowing errors in our system, holes in our system to allow those in next go around, not this go around, to vote without that ID. I think
Yes, these errors in our system, these holes in our system that nobody has ever driven a truck through. Right? These big problems, these errors that no one ever takes advantage of and uses it for voter fraud. We've got to fix this problem that doesn't exist. Maybe not this time, but next time. I like how she does that. Next time, because that makes it seem like a legitimate thing to want. I'm not saying right now, I'll be reasonable. We'll just do this totally bullshit thing next election. I'm Elizabeth Hasselbeck.
And they're also doing it right now. In many places. For students, for racial minorities.
Right.
That's an interesting thing I noticed. Errors in the system and holes. Those are racial slurs. I've never heard them used before. But they do want to keep them out of the election.
We've got to find a way not only to fix the errors in the system here in America, but the errors in the system that come from Mexico, right? We have to fix those.
A fence will do it, I think.
I think or a moat with an alligator.